and gents. Oh man, I'm excited. Anytime we get to talk about money, mapping it out, getting ourselves out of debt, picking a different financial future, that is right up my alley. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's get this show on the road. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
The Business Bros Podcast was created for you. Learn from the business professionals who come to share their stories. Find out what's working in business, on social media, what's hot and what's not, straight from the mouths of successful entrepreneurs out there doing the real work. And now, welcome to another episode of
The Business Bros. Yeah! Damn, it's time for you to do your thing, man. Drop some heat, baby.
All right, all you business pros out there, before we jump into the show, just a quick reminder to please subscribe on whichever platform it is that you're listening to us on today. Give us a like, give us a follow, subscribe, and drop a review. Help other like-minded business owners find value from our awesome guests while we rise up in those podcast rankings. We'll sincerely appreciate every single one of you for it, and if you want to be a guest on the show, we'd love to have you on to learn from you as well. Go to www.businessbros.biz, schedule your time, and don't forget to follow us on all our social medias at Business Bros Pod. All right, everybody, we are so excited and so honored to bring yet another incredible guest to the Business Bros Pod. Today's awesome guest wants to help you navigate your way to financial freedom, and he's got the map to get you there. Our guest has spent the last nearly 15 years creating the tools, training, and systems to help people find and make the most of their own money. With one simple app, you will find yourself discovering new and exciting ways for people to leverage the money you're already making, and with a little proper prior planning, you can be on your way to paying off debt, lowering your borrowing costs, and visualizing your financial picture for years to come. If you are serious about regaining control of your financial destiny, this app is a game changer for you. In just a few taps, you can create your own scenario and quickly see what your financial future will look like in 1, 5, 10, or even 15 years. Tune in to see how budgeting can no longer be a boring, tedious task that rains on your parade, how to tap into a newfound motivation, hope, and discipline to say no today in favor of better tomorrow that is now in clear view. Joining us today from the Cash Map app out of Bellingham, Washington, welcome to the show, Dennis Williams.
That's right.
Alrighty then, let's do this thing, ladies and gents. Look, almost every single one of you have to deal with money at some point in your life. That's just the way the cookie crumbles, right? And the biggest complaint I hear is there is too much month at the end of my money. Dennis, that is a problem that most people have, many people have. Welcome to the show, and tell me how you got into this space.
I got into this space about 12, 13 years ago when I had a account manager from an Australian bank drop by our office in Kirkland, Washington to train our lending officers. And he said, how would you like to show your clients how they can pay off their mortgage in half the time without changing their spending, and the interest rate doesn't matter? That just didn't sound right. And I wanted to figure out the why. How is it possible? Is this a scam? Is it really
that's one heck of a hook point there. All of a sudden you're like, okay, wait a minute. Yes, I would love to help my clients do that. But first, you got to help me do that. All right. So you have somebody come in, they address a problem that everybody has, a 30-year mortgage that is already designed where you're paying most of the interest up front the first 7 years of a loan. And somebody's coming to you saying, hey, you can pay this off in half the time. What did that do to you?
It took me to my Excel worksheet to start playing around with it to see if what the guy was saying was true. And
amortization schedule?
He was telling the truth, and I kept playing around with it. I figured it out, showed some friends back home in Hawaii, and they said, wow, you need to share this with others, and here's some money to develop an app. And that's what got me started.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about what it does for people first, and then we'll get into the nitty gritties, because everybody knows, right? Everybody knows that I need to get myself out of debt. I don't have that. I don't want to have any personal debt. Everybody knows that it could afford a different kind of life. But in your experience working with clients, what do you see that happens in a household or for someone's personal finances when they attain this goal, right? It's one thing to talk about it at the beginning. Did you know it's possible? It's another when they attain it.
Well, I mean, perhaps what I should do first is I can share with you a testimonial I just got a couple days ago. How about that?
Yeah, let's do that. Start off with that.
Okay, I'll start with that. The impact of CashMap has been a transformational experience. Dennis is disarmingly transparent, funny, and is a great coach. Seeing that we can simply and easily achieve what's most important to us created a savings mentality that we didn't think was possible. We're on track to pay off our mortgage and all our debts in just 12 years, and we're going to save $250,000. The value of what we've learned is far greater than the cost of the course. So there you go.
Dude, that right there, that's the key, right? Now, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here because I've been working in taxes, in real estate for many years now. In business itself, I don't know, something like 17, 18 years. It's been in my wheelhouse. And the number one issue that I hear with most people who get into plans like this is they treat them like diets. They start off with it and they see the plan. Look, perfect. You're going to save $250,000. It's going to take you 12 years. You're going to be out of complete debt. I'm not talking about any personal stuff, no cars, no autos. And the biggest problem people have is sticking to the plan. The plan is flawless. It's solid. Like you Excel spreadsheet the crap out of that thing. You know exactly what's going to happen if you stick to the plan. And yet it's so difficult to stick to the plan. What's been your experience with customers as you work through them? How can we get them to not only see the beautiful mathematical precision of what you're showing them, but to actually stick with it so that it works?
Okay, so let's just start at the very beginning here. How many people get excited over hearing the word budget?
Me,
Nobody.
I do. I'm just kidding.
Nobody. So I don't use that word. Instead, what we do is we start out by asking another question first. What are the things over the next 5, 10, 15 years that bring the most joy in your life that if you don't achieve them, you're going to be upset?
You're talking about the regret, right? I mean, that's really what it comes down to is at the end of the day, when you're sitting on your deathbed and you look back and be like, what is it that I regret? It's those things that you didn't get to do.
Exactly right. And then let's take a household in which one person likes to spend and the other one likes to save. And they ever get on the same page. Well, here's the reason why. The person who is used to enjoying life says, you only live once.
YOLO.
I don't want to be one of these elderly people that they find me dead in my house and $2 million under the mattress that I didn't spend. Screw that.
Okay.
It's worse. It's so much worse.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of this one, right? I'm like, so in my household, I'm definitely more of the saver, right? And my wife's more of the spender. Now, granted, she's not much of a spender, right? She's not a huge spender, but in our relationship, she's the one who tends to spend more often. And the way we ended up kind of working this out is we use an envelope accounting system. So when we get paid at we get paid once a month because both of us are teachers. And so I go to the bank, I literally pull out the cash that I need for that particular month. We have an envelope for groceries. We have an envelope for gas money. We have an envelope for fun money. We have an envelope, for all the different things. And then she gets an allowance. I get an allowance. She can go off and spend it whatever she wants. I mean, this morning we were talking about, she's like, we haven't done anything. I saved $500 this last month. I was like, great job. Like, awesome. But for her, she's like, I didn't get to experience something. Right? I sacrificed an experience for whatever it is that we were doing. I didn't do this. I didn't go here. I didn't do that. And I didn't get to spend that money. So when you're talking about the experience versus the saving, how do you balance that out? How do you get through that household?
Well, once people answer the question and what it's going to cost, they can then prioritize. And the problem with dreams are they're just usually dreams. But when you
True.
prioritize them and what's most important, what I call that is bringing your future into your present. So now
Mhm.
when I have what those priorities are, and then I'm looking at cash in my envelope, it sounds like David Ramsey,
Does sound like Dave Ramsey.
right? I used to teach it myself at my church. And now all of a sudden, I look at something that catches my eye. Because I now know what the priorities are for me, I can look at that and say, you know what? I'm not giving up anything by not buying that because I'm really clear on what I want for that dream. And we sat down and we wrote it out and we know what it's going to cost and we know when we're going to get it. Now, so that's step one. Step two, which is really cool, is that Cash Map allows you to create your current spending scenario. It's not what you would hope it to be or you want it to be. Just capture what it is. And then you then go about creating the assumptions going forward. And that coupled with using a strategy that banks and credit unions have been using daily on a daily basis for years, it takes that together with the power of compounding and it shows you where you will be in 5, 10, 15 years. And so all of a sudden you see a picture that you've never seen before. And that's how it becomes sustaining. Because
That power, let's hover on that step right there. That's huge, by the way. First of all, that the Cash App will allow you to see where you are today. Because oftentimes, you know, the two pieces there, where you are today and where you want to go, you absolutely need those things. Every single map, no matter which one I've used, whether it was Thomas Guide for all of you who even know what a Thomas Guide is, or I do it on Google, right? My Google Maps, I need a beginning and I need an end point for me to map out a trajectory of how I'm going to get there. And when you're talking, what you described on the app, identifying where you are today, that is a skeleton that a lot of people don't want to open up from their closet. That's something that's kind of scary to take a look at up front first, right? How much are you really spending on Starbucks? How much are you really spending on discretionary things that you think you need, but in reality, they're holding you back from what you want? That step two almost sounds like it should be a step one to figure out where you are and where you want to go.
well, I would argue that once you capture where you are, and then you answer a few other questions like, what am I expecting to get for income over the next per year increases? Well, say 2%. Well, with every raise I get, am I going to spend it all? What percentage of it will I keep? How much money do I have right now in my emergency fund? Well, what percent interest do I think I should be able to get on my money long term? Oh, and then there's that thing called a debt. Let's put in what that is. When did it start? The application runs the iteration, shows you exactly when the debt will get paid off, how much you can save in interest, what will be the impact that by paying it off, what that does to your savings growth. And when you see that, the reaction is, oh my goodness, I had no idea. And once you see that, now here's what happens next. People say, oh, but what if I was to earn another couple $100 a month? Or, oh, maybe what happens if maybe I can give up something else? What does it do then? Well, I can save the scenario, run it again, and then see what the effect is. And now all of a sudden, I'm doing something because I know what the outcome is.
Yes. Show me the money.
And oh, by the way, I haven't used the word budgeting yet.
Mm. Well, you think that's because it's a mindset thing, Dennis? I mean, let's be honest. When you hear things like get out of debt, when you hear things like set up a budget, it sounds so restrictive, man. Like you're gonna take away. You know, you talked about how there's always that person in the relationship who's that YOLO person, right? You only live once. You know, if I hear budget, I hear you're not gonna let me do something. If I hear debt, it means we don't have enough money. Like you're already talking scarcity, and you haven't even helped me get to where I want to go yet. So I love how you phrased it, but really you are doing those things, right? Really, we are looking at it at our overall financial picture, and you are assessing a budget. It's just a live one. It's one that you have already put in place, and you are getting out of debt, even though you might not call it that. But you're seeing it as an overall picture that changes the mindset of someone from a restrictive to a proactive.
It's why I call it creating a mindset of savings. But let's go one step further. I mean, let me tell you what I'm most excited about doing is I'm all about equipping people, enabling them to have the confidence to increase their finances, giving them choices, security, mitigating risk, and decreasing debt. So what are the risks? Case in point. Since 1795, the US has gone through 48 recessions. Nobody knows when they're going to hit. And what causes the recession? It's a reaction to governments stimulating the economy, driving up demand, driving up prices, and then suddenly it collapses. And then there's collateral damage. For example, it's an article that was recently came out that showed that 55% of people over the age of 50 will lose their job once, at least once, or be forced to retire early. And only 10% of them will be able to replace their income. Now, if we're now able to create a scenario that we're minimizing people's risk, and oh, by the way, here's another one I get. If I show people how to save money on interest, you know what the reaction I sometimes get? Well, the banks aren't going to like that. But did you know until the mid 1600s to the early 1700s, if somebody charged interest on a loan, they were condemned to eternal hell? Or in early England, when it came time to building a home, there was no interest cost. You had this, in Hawaii, they call it a hui. People got together, they contributed, and everybody paid until the house was built and done. Or foreclosures weren't done until at least 20 years. And it only changed to what we got today when they had to expand to the new world. My point is, the whole financial situation has always been evolving and changing. And so why not use processes that have been in place for years that enable us to get ahead, to secure our family's future, and to achieve what is most important to us? And that's what we're about at Cashman.
Walk me through what some of these structures are, because it could get as super easy as using an envelope accounting system. It could be as complex as understanding how an amortization table works, or we can get even crazier and start talking about infinite banking strategy using whole life. Like, what are we talking? You know, when you sit down with a client, with your ideal client, what are you looking at? What's their situation look like, and what's the end result that we're looking for?
Really, I really have just two requirements. First one, back to your point of envelopes, you do need to get to the space where you're not spending everything that you make. So that is number one. So if you got to use envelopes to kind of make that a routine habit that you do, then go for it. But I would argue that using envelopes, that's just step one to bring a sense of normalcy and discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Agreed.
But then once you have that, then it's time to kind of take up the next step and put that on steroids. And what do I mean by that? We encourage people to use a very small line of credit. When I say a line of credit, it's only 1.5 times the amount of income that you deposit in the bank every month. So if somebody's making $6,000 a month actually depositing, they only need a line of credit of $9,000.
Hmm.
And we use that line of credit like a bank does. We put your income to work so that you for yourself are creating a loan that's only like 1 to 1.5%. And we're using the bank's money to accelerate getting rid of debt, or you can use it to accelerate savings. So if you wanted to use it for the strategy for funding an IUL, or to put the money back and minimize the 4% cost that they're going to charge you when you pull money out tax-free to use it for something, then break a leg. You can use it that way. But the idea is putting your money to work for you to accelerate getting where you want to go sooner, and doing it safely without touching your savings or your emergency fund at the same time.
So when you're talking about tax-free income, right? It's always a tricky conversation to have with people because they don't always understand what it means to be tax-free, what it means to be income, how it actually plays out. And so can you help me walk through what you mean by a tax-free income? So, for example, when you work at your job, you're not having tax-free. You might put money in some sort of retirement fund, an IRA, 401k, 403b, whatever it is, and you might have tax deferred, but it's not necessarily tax-free. When you're talking tax-free, it tends to be more on borrowed funds, not so much income, but we use it as income, right?
That's right. And I only cued in on that because you used the term whole life or index universal life.
Yeah.
So that's just an example. So I don't want to go down that road, but the reality of the challenge that we're all facing, that banks haven't been doing this for years, is we leave our money sitting in a checking account doing absolutely nothing, waiting to pay our bills.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it to work. And that's the premise of what CashMap does. We are showing you how to put your money to work risk-free. And in turn, on a compounding basis, as I say, small changes bring big results.
The richest man in Babylon speaks about, first and foremost, paying yourself 10% of everything you earn, right? Make sure you have a legion of golden armies, I think is what he calls it in the book. And the goal of this golden army legion is to go out and make baby gold slaves, right? So you have this goal, you have a bunch of gold slaves that you've worked really hard, you're putting them to work is what you're describing. And then the interest that it's earning, those are the little babies that money makes. We got to put that money back to work for us. Now, my issue with, and my concern, my question has always been, okay, but the money's sitting there for a month and I do have to pay my bills. How much interest can I really earn in that 30-day period or in that 2-week period or whatever it is when my payment cycles are coming in?
Well, I would you're spot on. And because that's the case, in a conventional way of thinking, the bank's using my money, right? They will leverage our money sitting in a checking and savings account, use it to make money, then pay me 0.1%. It is a great scenario
For the bank.
But for the bank. But I don't fault them for it. But what could we do to do the same thing the other way around? Well, let me ask you a question. If I could find a bank who is willing to pay you 20% interest, by the way, doesn't exist, but if, how quickly would you put the money in the bank?
As fast as possible. Yesterday.
Exactly. And the bank is going to pay us based on the average daily balance for the month, right?
That's true.
So if I want to keep the average daily balance as high as I can, when am I going to pay my bills?
At the very last second, right before it gets replenished.
The very last second before the bank closes out the account for the month, then I'll move it. Now, does that mean I'm going to stiff my vendors? No. What it does mean is I can actually call my vendors and reschedule the timing I pay my bills for my benefit. Now, the problem with what I'm saying is the banks aren't paying us 20%. They're only paying us 0.1%, right?
True.
But if I have a line of credit and I take money off the line of credit and I do the same thing, now I'm minimizing the average daily balance and I'm dramatically reducing the interest cost. And so now I'm using the bank's money for my benefit, and I'm using my income to keep the balance low all month long until the last minute when I got to pay my bills. And then I put it back in the checking account just in time to pay the bills. And other than that, the checking account sits there at a very low balance. So what does that do? Well, first of all, now when I look at my checking account balance, there's not much there, right? Because I'm keeping it working for me. Second, because I'm now using this small line of credit to accelerate paying off a debt or boosting a savings account, and I now have seen where it's going to get me, my mindset is entirely shifted.
All right.
And now all of a sudden I'm motivated for the first time because what I'm doing actually matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about how does one get to the Cash App? So if somebody wants to download the app, set themselves up, get squared away, start putting together a map so they have a financial future they can visually see and work towards, how do they make that happen?
Okay. Well, Cash Map is available both in Apple's App Store, and it's Cash Map, the empowering budgeting, or in Google Play, it's called Cash Map Pro, and you can download it for free. And there are a series of purchase options that you can choose. So, for example, if you wanted to for 30 days, it's $15.99, but you have 7 days to play with it before you get charged. So,
And
that's
the
software part.
Okay.
Now,
what do they get
the other
for the
part
15?
of it? Say that again.
What do they get for the $15.99?
Oh, full use to the application to create as many scenarios as you want, to see exactly what your solution looks like, what you would do every single month. You can create as many scenarios, decide which one you want to keep. It walks you through the process step by step. But what I've also learned from probably surveying over 70, 75 people has been 80% of people, I will say we need somebody to guide us through. So my question to you would be, if I could save you $100,000, but you needed coaching, would that be a reasonably good proposition that now you're learning a skill that you'll now be able to use the rest of your life, so that you now be able to have the confidence of strengthening your finances, giving you more choices, giving you more security, mitigating risk, and reducing debt? Would that have value?
It absolutely would. $15 a month just to be able to balance out my stuff. That makes sense to me, especially if you're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the flip side. I could pay for coaching at that point.
Yeah, and so the coaching is a 9-week program that I provide called the Cash Map Blueprint. And it literally walks people through the process step by step so that by the time they get to the 9th week, they see it, they get it. We provide lifetime coaching. They can come back and ask questions. But as a general rule, by the time they're done, they would have mastered it. They get it, they see it, and they're excited.
We're not just doing this for money. We're doing it for a shitload of money.
That's right. Dude, Lone Star. That's the one thing you do not want to be when it comes to your personal finances. You don't want to be at this alone. There are already people who have figured it out. So Dennis is one of those. Cashmapapp.com. Stop by there, pick it up. Play with at least the free version. Download the app, play with it, get to learn it a little bit. And then when you're ready to rock the scenarios, check out the blueprint. I mean, it's 9 weeks of coaching. You get yourself in a position where you're ready to rock and roll. Nothing is better than when you have control of your own personal finances. It is such a weight lifted off your shoulders when you don't have to worry about where that income's going to come in, where the bills are going to be paid from. If you have a plan, you know exactly where you're going, even if you're starting off slow at the beginning, even if you have to cut things out of your life that you didn't think you could, but you definitely can. Do that for a short period of time. I promise you, it will dramatically change your life. It's going to make things so much easier for you. Less fights with the spouse because you guys are both on the same page. You know exactly where you're going. You're planning for a future that you can enjoy. Those vacations that you've been looking forward to can actually become a reality because there's a target in mind and you're working towards actually achieving that thing. Your finances are those one things that you do not want to stick your head in the sand like an ostrich and just hope and pray that it figures itself out, because it won't. You need to take control of your stuff. And Dennis has a great opportunity for you to do that. Cashmapapp.com. So make sure you guys check it out. Dennis, thank you very much for coming on the show. Really appreciate you taking the time and talking finance with me.
Hey, it was fun. It was a real pleasure. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gents, we'll see you guys again mañana. Peace. And we're out.
Thank you for listening to the Business Bros Podcast. Are you looking to get more clients or to increase your income? Hernan, the business bro, can help you generate referrals through the power of podcasting. And James, the insurance bro with Pipeline Insurance, can help you effectively add insurance to your existing business. If you are ready to create wealth today and generational wealth for tomorrow, email businessbros@csfirst.com to schedule a free consultation, or join the Business Bros Network, www.businessbros.biz.